The distress signal Captain Sarah Chun stood on the observation deck of the UES Pioneer, watching the stars drift past in silent procession. After 15 years in deep space exploration, she had learned to read the cosmos like an old friend's face. Something was different tonight. The quantum sensors had been picking up unusual readings for the past 3 hours, patterns that didn't match any natural phenomenon in their databases. "Captain, you need to see this," Lieutenant Commander James Park called from the communications station. His voice carried an edge of excitement mixed with concern that immediately drew Chun's attention. She crossed the bridge in quick strides, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor dot. The main display showed a complex waveform pattern, pulsing with mathematical precision. Park's fingers danced across his console, isolating different frequencies and running them through the ship's translation matrix. "It's definitely artificial, Captain. The pattern repeats every 47 seconds, and it's using a compression algorithm we've never seen before." Chun studied the data, her mind racing through possibilities. Humanity had been searching for signs of intelligent life for over a century since achieving faster-than-light travel. They had found ruins, ancient artifacts, and evidence of civilizations. Long dead, but never active communication. This could be their first real contact. "Can we decode it?" she asked, already knowing her crew would find a way. They always did. Dr. Amelia Foster, the ship's xenolinguist, had already begun working on the problem. The elderly scientist had spent 40 years preparing for this moment, developing translation protocols for potential alien communications. Her white hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her eyes sparkled with the enthusiasm of someone half her age. "The mathematics are universal," Foster explained, her fingers flying across her tablet. "They're using prime numbers as a base key, then layering information in quantum states. It's brilliant, actually. Give me 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes felt like hours." The bridge crew worked in focused silence, each member contributing their expertise to the puzzle. When the translation finally came through, the message that appeared on the main screen changed everything. The holographic projection showed a being of ethereal beauty, tall and slender with skin that seemed to shimmer like opal. Its large eyes held an intelligence that transcended species, but also a deep, profound sadness. When it spoke, the translated words carried the weight of desperation. "To any civilization capable of receiving this message, we are the Zelani of the Spiral Gardens. Our worlds face annihilation. The Ravager swarm has entered our space, and we have no weapons to defend ourselves. We are a people of art, science, and philosophy. We have never known war, never built weapons, never taken a life. In 7 rotations, our entire civilization will cease to exist. Our children will never see another dawn. Our songs will be forever silenced. If there are any among the stars who remember what it means to protect the innocent, please know that we existed. Please know that we tried to live in peace." The message ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Chun felt her chest tighten. The timestamp on the message showed it had been broadcast 3 days ago. That meant the Zelani had only 4 days left. "Navigation. Plot a course to the signal's origin," Chun ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her mind. "Maximum speed." "Captain," Park interjected carefully, "regulations require us to report first contact to Earth Command before taking any action." Chun turned to face her crew, seeing the same conflict in their eyes that she felt in her heart. They were explorers, not soldiers. The Pioneer carried minimal weapons, just enough for self-defense against asteroids and space debris. But she also saw something else in their faces, the fundamental human inability to ignore a cry for help. "Send the message to Earth Command," she decided, "but we're not waiting for a response. Helm, engage hyperdrive. We're going to help them." The journey to the Zelani system took 18 hours at maximum burn, pushing the Pioneer's engines to their limits. During that time, Chun composed detailed reports for Earth's military command, explaining the situation and requesting immediate backup. She knew she was potentially starting humanity's first interstellar war, but the alternative was unconscionable. The response from Earth came faster than expected. Admiral Jackson Wright, commander of the Third Fleet, appeared on the communication screen. Wright was a veteran of the Mars independence conflict, a man who understood both the cost and necessity of war. Captain Chun, your report has been received and is causing quite a debate here, Wright said, his weathered face showing the strain of command. Half the council wants to maintain strict neutrality. They're afraid of making enemies we don't understand. And the other half? Chun asked, though she could already see the answer in Wright's eyes. The other half remembers why we reached for the stars in the first place. Wright replied with a slight smile. I'm mobilizing the Third Fleet. 97 warships, including 3 dreadnoughts. We'll be at your position in 36 hours. Try to keep the situation stable until we arrive. Chun felt a surge of pride in her species. Understood, Admiral. We'll do what we can. When the Pioneer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zelani system, the scene that greeted them was both beautiful and terrifying. 3 planets hung in space like jewels, their surfaces covered in crystalline cities that caught and reflected starlight in rainbow patterns. But surrounding them was a cloud of darkness that moved with predatory purpose. The Ravager swarm was unlike anything in humanity's databases. Thousands of biomechanical constructs, each the size of a city block, moved through space in perfect coordination. They looked like a mixture of insect and machine, with hull plates that shifted and reconfigured as they moved. Where they passed, they left nothing but stripped asteroids and empty space. Dear God, Foster whispered, her scientific objectivity momentarily overwhelmed by the sheer scale of destruction. A communication request appeared on their screens. Chun accepted it immediately, and the image of a Zelani appeared. This one looked younger than the one in the distress message, but carried the same air of desperate hope. Unknown vessel, I am Keeper Avalon of the Zelani High Council. Are you here to witness our end, as others have done, or have you come to help? Chun straightened her uniform and spoke with all the authority she could muster. Keeper Avalon, I am Captain Sarah Chun of the United Earthship Pioneer. We received your distress signal. Help is coming. The Zelani's large eyes widened in disbelief. You would risk yourselves for strangers? Why? Because it's the right thing to do, Chun replied simply. How many of your people can you evacuate? Evacuate? Avalon's confusion was evident. We have never considered. We have no ships capable of interstellar travel. Our vessels are designed for beauty and efficiency, not for fleeing our homes. Chun's mind raced through possibilities. The Pioneer could maybe take 1,000 refugees, but there were billions of Zelani across 3 worlds. They needed time, and time was something they didn't have. Keeper Avalon, I need you to gather your best scientists and engineers, Chun instructed. We're going to teach you something humans learned long ago. Sometimes, to preserve peace, you must prepare for war. Over the next 20 hours, Chun and her crew worked desperately to help the Zelani understand human military concepts. It was like teaching poetry to people who had never seen written language. The Zelani minds were brilliant, capable of incredible feats of science and mathematics, but they had no framework for understanding violence or conflict. Your ships are works of art, Chief Engineer Marcus Rodriguez explained to a group of Zelani technicians. But art can become a weapon if necessary. Your crystalline structures could be reconfigured into directed energy weapons. Your propulsion systems could be overloaded to create explosive devices. The Zelani recoiled at these suggestions, their peaceful nature struggling against the brutal necessities of survival. But as the Ravager swarm drew closer, consuming the outer planets of their system, pragmatism began to override philosophy. Chun established a defensive perimeter around the main Zilani world, using the pioneers' limited weapons to destroy Ravager scouts that came too close. Each engagement taught them more about their enemy. The Ravagers weren't just mindless consumers. They were intelligent, adaptive, and utterly ruthless. Asterisk. Captain, I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures, Park announced, relief evident in his voice. It's the Third Fleet. The arrival of humanity's warships changed the entire dynamic of the system. 97 vessels dropped out of hyperspace, in perfect formation, their hulls bristling with weapons that humanity had hoped never to use. At the center of the formation, the dreadnought UE's Retribution dwarfed everything around it, a kilometer-long statement of human engineering and determination. Admiral Wright's voice boomed across all channels. Ravager swarm, this is Admiral Jackson Wright of the United Earth Defense Force. The Zilani are now under human protection. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The response from the Ravagers wasn't words, but action. The entire swarm turned toward the human fleet, moving with the coordinated precision of a single organism. The battle for the Zilani survival was about to begin. Asterisk humanity's answer. First clash between humanity and the Ravager swarm would be remembered as one of the defining moments in galactic history. Admiral Wright watched from the bridge of the UES Retribution as thousands of Ravager constructs accelerated toward his fleet. Each biomechanical horror was unique, adapted for a specific function in their consumption of civilizations. Some were clearly designed for combat, bristling with energy weapons and projectile launchers. Others were harvesters, meant to strip planets of resources. All were deadly. All ships, implement Battle Plan Delta 7, Wright commanded, his voice calm despite the odds they faced. The human fleet was outnumbered 30-1, but Earth's military doctrine had always emphasized quality over quantity. Show them why humans are the apex predators of our world. The human fleet split into 5 battle groups, each executing complex maneuvers that had been perfected in countless simulations. The dreadnoughts formed the backbone of the formation, their massive guns targeting the largest Ravager constructs. Cruisers and destroyers wove between them, creating overlapping fields of fire that turned space into a killing field. Captain Marcus Thompson of the destroyer UES Thunder led his squadron directly into the heart of the swarm. Thompson was known throughout the fleet for his aggressive tactics, but this was beyond anything he had attempted before. All power to forward shields, he ordered. We're going to punch a hole right through them. The Thunder's hull groaned under the assault of dozens of Ravager weapons. Bioacid that could dissolve metal in seconds splashed against their shields, while living projectiles tried to burrow through their armor. But human engineering had been forged in the crucible of Earth's harsh environment, where everything from weather to wildlife tried to kill you. Sir, shields at 30%. His tactical officer reported. Then we'd better make this count, Thompson replied grimly. Target that command construct and prepare for ramming speed. The Thunder accelerated beyond all safety limits, its engines screaming in protest. Thompson had identified what appeared to be a coordination node in the Ravager formation, a massive construct that seemed to be directing the others. If they could destroy it, it might throw the swarm into confusion. The collision was catastrophic. The Thunder struck the Ravager command construct at a significant fraction of light speed, both vessels disappearing in an explosion that briefly outshone the system's star. But Thompson's sacrifice achieved its purpose. The section of the swarm nearest to the explosion fell into disarray, their coordinated attacks becoming chaotic and unfocused. Admiral Wright seized the opportunity. All ships concentrate fire. On Sector 7, break them apart. A human fleet poured devastating fire into the confused Ravagers. Railguns launched projectiles at relativistic speeds, while particle beams carved through biomechanical armor like surgical scalpels. Missile swarms deployed by the cruisers overwhelmed Ravager point defenses, each warhead designed to exploit weaknesses observed during the initial engagement. On the Zelani homeworld, Keeper Avalon watched the battle with a mixture of awe and horror. His people had never witnessed violence on this scale. The beauty of their crystal cities seemed fragile and insignificant compared to the raw destructive power being unleashed in their skies. Captain Chun stood beside him on the observation platform, her expression grim but determined. "This is what we are," she said quietly. "Humans are capable of terrible violence. We evolved on a world that taught us to fight for survival every single day. But we choose when to use that violence. Today, we use it to protect those who cannot protect themselves." The battle raged for 6 hours. The Ravager swarm adapted quickly to human tactics, their biomechanical nature allowing them to evolve new defenses in real time. Constructs that had been vulnerable to particle beams developed reflective armor. Those damaged by kinetic weapons grew additional layers of protection. But humans had been adapting to threats for millions of years. Admiral Wright coordinated, his fleet like a master conductor, constantly changing tactics to stay ahead of Ravager evolution. When energy weapons became less effective, they switched to kinetic bombardment. When the Ravagers adapted to that, they deployed nuclear mines that detonated in carefully timed sequences. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Dr. Foster, still aboard the Pioneer, had been analyzing Ravager communications throughout. The battle, the biomechanical constructs used a form of quantum entanglement to coordinate their actions, similar to how neurons in a brain communicated. "Admiral, I've found their weakness," she transmitted urgently. "They're not individual entities. They're all part of a single distributed consciousness. If we can disrupt their quantum communications, we can essentially give them a stroke." Wright didn't hesitate. "How do we do it?" "We need to create quantum interference across multiple frequencies simultaneously," Foster explained. "I'm sending the specifications to your engineering teams now." Within minutes, every human ship began broadcasting quantum static on the frequencies Foster had identified. The effect on the Ravager swarm was immediate and devastating. Constructs that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly began colliding with each other. Their attacks became erratic and unfocused. Some even began attacking other Ravagers, unable to distinguish friend from foe. But the victory came at a terrible cost. 23 human ships had been destroyed, with thousands of crew members lost. The debris field from the battle would orbit the Zelani homeworld for generations, a monument to the price of freedom. As the remaining Ravagers fled the system, something unprecedented happened. Ships began arriving from other civilizations, species that had been watching the battle from a safe distance. The Corvani, a race of traders who had refused to help the Zelani, arrived with medical supplies. The Etherian Council, known for their strict neutrality, offered to help with refugee relocation. Captain Chun realized what had happened. Humanity's willingness to fight for strangers had shamed other civilizations into action. By standing alone against impossible odds, they had inspired others to stand with them. A communication from the fleeing Ravager swarm shocked everyone. For the first time, the collective consciousness spoke directly to another species. The voice was alien, neither singular nor plural, but something in between. "Humans of Earth," it said, the words formed with difficulty, as if communication itself was foreign to them. "You are unlike the others. You fight not for resources or territory, but for principle. This is incomprehensible to us. We are the hunger between stars, the necessity of consumption. But you have taught us something new: pain, loss, fear. We will remember humanity. The swarm disappeared into hyperspace, leaving behind questions that would haunt xenobiologists for decades. Were the Ravagers truly gone, or would they return? Had humanity made an enemy, or taught a predator to become something more? Admiral Wright addressed the combined fleets now gathered in the Zelani system. His words were broadcast across hundreds of worlds, carried by traders and refugees to every corner of known space. Today, we've learned something important. He sighed, his voice carrying the weight of lost friends and hard-won victory. The galaxy is full of civilizations that have forgotten how to fight, and predators that have forgotten why not to. Humanity stands between them. We are the children of a death world, forged by evolution to be survivors and warriors. But we choose to be protectors. He paused, looking at the data showing dozens of species now requesting defensive pacts with Earth. We cannot protect everyone alone, but we can teach them to protect themselves. We can stand together against the darkness. Today marks the birth of something new, the Galactic Defense Alliance. Any species that stands for protecting the innocent is welcome. Keeper Avalon was the first to respond. The Zelani, despite having no military tradition, pledged their scientific knowledge to the Alliance. Their expertise in energy manipulation and crystal technology would prove invaluable in developing new defensive systems. The Corvani offered their vast trade networks to ensure resources flowed where they were needed. The Etherian Council contributed their diplomatic expertise to prevent conflicts before they required military intervention. One by one, species that had stood apart came together. United by humanity's example, Captain Chun stood on the bridge of the Pioneer, watching as human engineers helped Zelani scientists convert their beautiful crystal ships into defensive platforms. It wasn't the first contact she had imagined, but perhaps it was the one the galaxy needed. You know, Dr. Foster sighed, joining her at the observation window. We've changed everything. The galaxy will never be the same. Chun nodded, watching as a young Zelani child touched the hull of a human fighter craft with wonder and fear. That's what humans do, she replied. We change things. Sometimes for worse, but today, hopefully for better. The child's parent, one of the Zelani Chun had helped train, approached the human fighter pilot. Through her translator, Chun heard their conversation. Will you teach us to be strong like you? The Zelani asked. The pilot, a young woman barely out of the academy, knelt down to the child's level. We'll teach you to be strong in your own way, she said gently. Humans are warriors because our world made us that way. But strength comes in many forms. Your people's art, your philosophy, your peace, those are strengths too. We'll protect you while you learn to protect yourselves, but never forget who you are. As the various fleets began to disperse, returning to their home systems, with new alliances and mutual defense agreements, Admiral Wright sent a final message to Earth Command. Mission successful, though not as originally intended. We came to explore and found ourselves becoming guardians. The galaxy knows about humanity now, not as conquerors or traitors, but as protectors. We've shown them that evolution on a death world doesn't make us monsters. It makes us monsters who choose to be heroes. The real work begins now, right out. The transformation of the galaxy had begun with a single distress signal and humanity's choice to answer it. In the years that would follow, the Galactic Defense Alliance would face new threats and challenges. But the precedent had been set. When the innocent called for help, the children of Earth would answer with steel, determination, and the hard-won wisdom that true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to protect. The Zelani would remember humanity not as the warriors who saved them, but as the teachers who showed them that peace was something worth fighting for. And across the galaxy, in languages humanity had yet to learn, stories would be told of the day the death Worlders came not to conquer, but to stand guard against the darkness. Asterisk